He's got one foot in the frying pan and one in the pressure cooker. Believe me, as a bowler, I know that right about now, your bladder feels like an overstuffed vacuum cleaner bag, and your butt is kind of like an about-to-explode bratwurst.
Hey, you mind? I wasn't talking when you were bowling.
Was I talking out loud?
Do you have it? Do you have it? Do you have it? Do you have it?
Welcome to Munsons at the Movies. My name is Kyle. I will once again be your host, joined by the rest of the Munsons. Want to give them a wide berth.
He's what is called a born loser. A real Munson.
And talk a little bit about what's going on in the world. So we're going to start this time with Craig Case.
I learned about a new bar here in Montgomery called Jerry's Juke Joint. And a friend and I were out for dinner, and we decided we'd check it out because we saw it was karaoke night. And I had one of the best experiences of my life. When we walked in, everybody started cheering and giving us high fives. And I'm like, this is an exciting place. And then we sit down, and I'm feeling really good about myself until I realized that every single person that walked in, everybody would start clapping and giving them high fives. And then within about 2 or 3 people, I started getting excited every time somebody new was walking up to the door. It was the most welcoming experience I've ever had at a bar in my life, and I can't wait to go back. So I know we have a lot of like bar and restaurant owners that listen to this podcast. If you can figure out a way to give all of your patrons a round of applause when they come in, I think you're going to get a lot of customers.
Was this your Cheers experience?
No joke, that's how I felt. In fact, I said to my friend, I go, do you know those guys? And she's like, nope. It felt so welcome there. It was great.
Aubrey.
Got 2 real updates. We are reaching the end. My wife is pregnant. My second child will be born soon. And I am so tired that I feel like a terrible person because she has a full-time job. She makes dinner. Her choice, important to point out. Takes care of our son mostly and is creating a human. I go to work and then prep to talk about movies, and I'm exhausted. And I'm like coming home and being like, hey, I'm so tired. I just need some time alone. I've realized that I've become everything I hate, and men are the worst. So that's update number 1.
All right.
Update number 2. We're right after the Super Bowl. Kendrick Lamar performed the halftime show. And I realized watching the fallout of this that I just can't anymore. I just have given up on society elevating itself to a better place and appreciating great things when they're in front of them. Because I thought that performance was great. I thought it was a great testament to hip hop music and the creativity and artistry of Kendrick. And I heard by more than one person today that they couldn't understand what he was saying. So it was trash. And I just can't anymore. So, I hope everyone had a good time. I hope Kendrick had the best time.
Don't give up, buddy. Hang in there.
James, follow that.
Yeah, good luck.
Big fan of Kendrick Lamar. It's one of my favorite live performances that I've seen in person. And my critique of this is everyone hates on the Super Bowl halftime show.
Yes.
Even when it's like the lily white pop stars, no one fucking likes it. Like if you just type in halftime show complaints into Google, it's every year, every person complains. There's just no way to make universally appreciated performance. But I'm also not shocked that Kendrick Lamar wasn't received well, considering Kendrick Lamar's entire performance was the most California Compton representative, also shit talking battle rap, which I am into, and I know my mom and dad would have no interest in. So completely not shocked by how that went over. On my side, I will say that things are going well over here. Little Jeff Bridges Jr. is getting to the age now where I have to figure out different ways to lie to her. And it's a real eye-opening experience. She can't really spell, but she can sound out the words I'm spelling. And she's figuring out what my wife and I are talking about. And so that's a new thing that we've had to adjust to.
Good problem to have. That's a smart kid.
We're not prepared, I guess is how I would phrase it.
I could spell all in front of my son, and he got no idea what's going on.
You can spell in front of me, and I'm not going to know what's going on. She's going to be whipping your ass in Trivia Pursuit by the time she's 10, James.
Well, on my end, thinking of some new curriculum that I wanted to throw past the teacher on this podcast. I was poking around in Chat GPT today. I feel like the teacher on this podcast could really benefit from a selection of films just about AI and the power of robots taking over everything. So we'll start with iRobot, which we're covering on this podcast today. Terminator, Judgment Day, that feels like a good ever-present one for your students, Aubrey. And since they now listen to this episode for the second time, we need to scare the living shit out of them to stop using AI. So I think you got a curriculum in front of you.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
Some lessons are learned harder than others.
Be more innovative.
And don't get caught.
Also, would the movie to scare them off AI not be Her?
Yeah.
Ex Machina, maybe?
Ex Machina, yeah. Her's kind of a lovely story.
I'm going to join this class. I'm excited. You know what else is pretty good, though? Having Mike Vandevoort back on the show.
Yes, it is.
He's a professional marketer and communicator by day, but actor and sports announcer by night. Been performing since he was old enough to talk. He is currently one of the actors and producers creating shows for Zoom in the Movies and Scripts with Friends and on Facebook. For Zooming the Movies, he's played icons such as Uncle Buck, Freddy Krueger, and Scooby-Doo, among many others. He's also lent his voice in numerous NCAA and minor league sports programs of the last 15 years. And he was previously with us for the Anthony Mackie, Gina Davis, and F. Murray Abraham episodes. Welcome back, Mike.
Great to be back. Thanks, guys. Been an interesting year over on my neck of the woods. My dad passed away suddenly last summer, which was kind of rough, but got through it. He was always a big fan of the podcast. Flipped the year around, got married at the end of last year. So my bank account was not happy about it, but he's all right. So, I think I'll keep her around. I also finished my second year giving back in a way, judging and coaching speech.
Ooh.
Local high school.
Cool.
Yeah, it was something I was really into when I was in high school and just, got hooked up with it last year and getting more and more into it. And some of these kids are just incredibly talented, and it's really kind of fun to see the next generation and help them kind of grow what they're doing and build up to something awesome. And there's, like I said, there's kids you see and you go, I'm going to keep track of that name because you're going to be somebody someday, I think.
Teaching these kids to talk shit professionally. I love it.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. Shit talking 101. Let's go.
Amazing.
Respect your encouragement. I love the excitement in which you speak about the youth. It also tells me that you have only been doing this for a year.
Well, the thing is you have to remember, these are speech team kids, so they are a special breed of children.
I'm sorry to hear that news about your dad. It sucks, man.
Yeah. R.I.P., man.
Glad to hear he was a fan of the show, though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Love that.
He was the one who introduced me to Anthony Mackie, so that's my famous story from that episode.
That's right.
Again, to meet him, like my dad was the big one behind that. My dad was the one who introduced me to Gina Davis in A League of Their Own, which I gave a very impassioned speech.
Tell us that he also arm wrestled F. Murray Abraham at a bar.
Yeah, sure. Most interesting man who ever lived, my father.
Episode 114. Let's rock and roll, y'all. Birthdays, February 20th. We've got 3 goodies today. So first and foremost, we have Miles Teller, best known for projects like Whiplash, Fantastic Four, Spectacular Now, Only the Brave, which we talked about last episode, Top Gun Maverick, War Dogs, Project X, and Footloose. How old is Miles Teller?
The remake of Footloose, hopefully.
Yes, accurate.
Miles Teller.
The Great Divergent series.
34.
I was going to go younger because I think he's younger than I am, so I was going to say 31.
Give me 36.
38.
He's turning 38, so Aubrey, with the last second victory there. Older than you'd think.
Yeah.
Second up, I got Chelsea Peretti, known for Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Big Mouth.
22.
Thing 2, Game Night, Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping, China, Illinois, and tons of TV spots. She's basically done mostly TV her entire career.
I wanted to beat Aubrey in on this time.
Oh, wait, you went 22?
Yeah.
It's a good guess.
Uh-huh.
It's a good guess. Really boxed me in on this one.
Play defense.
I don't have to worry about James. James respects the game. He's going to take it serious.
Yeah, I'm not as polite as you two are. I think early 40s. We'll go 41.
Ace has forced me to actually work on this one. She's married to Jordan Peele, right?
Yeah, and they had a kid. I don't know how long ago because COVID quarantine has melted my brain for the last 5 years, but I want to say it's like a young kid.
All the years are the same at this point. It's all 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
He's older than me. So I'm going to go 43. Oh, if I'm over, I'm going to be so mad at Case.
I'll do 44.
Height window. And what a move, because she's turning 47.
Oh, wow.
Just pretty. So Mike gets that one.
Dang.
All right, good. Well played, Case. Good win.
That's two very funny people married to each other. Holy moly.
I'm going to double check your work on that because I thought I was going to win that one.
Feels good, doesn't it, Case? Feels good to win on those.
Sure does. Happy birthday, Chelsea.
I know Aubrey's going to enjoy this one. Charles Barkley.
Known for all of his great acting.
Known for He Got Game, Space Jam, Hot Shots, Hustle, Forget Paris, a prolific basketball career, and a career saying hilarious shit on Inside the NBA. How old is Charles Barkley?
Forget Paris. Love that movie.
Yes.
Love that movie. Is a mess, but I love that movie. Oh, what a great performance. He gets after in Space Jam. Real acting chops there.
Oh, for sure.
Is he an Emmy Award winner?
Oh,
Yeah, many times over. He's so good on that show.
yeah.
I'm going to say 61.
There's a way to math this out.
Yeah, I think Case is on the right path.
It's because I was already doing the math when you guys were talking about Chelsea Peretti.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
No, I threw a smoke bomb with 22, and then I went to work and doing the math.
I threw a smoke bomb.
58.
I'll go 63.
65.
Case's advanced mathematics lent him well. He's turning 62. So Case takes that one.
I couldn't figure out if he was 21 or 22 on the Olympic team. So I was like, figured I'd go under.
Yeah.
2 big wins for Case.
That's right.
Happy birthday to those 3 individuals. Anybody else with a birthday, and to Aubrey and James, get good. All right, 5 actors we threw on the wheel for episode 114. We had Chadwick Boseman, Scout Taylor Compton, Russell Crowe, Tom Cruise. But it doesn't matter because the wheel selected Alan Tudyk. He has 157 credits. The man's done a lot. 2 producing credits, 1 directing credit, and tons of voice acting, which we'll talk about. Lots of flexibility in that voice acting as well, especially with some of our feature reviews. It's going to be hilarious. But before we get into that, the nitty-gritty of things, we always start with a little actor trivia and see if James can stump us Fast and Furious style.
Mike, you are part of the initiated, so you know the rules here. But for every one of Mr. McKay's students who are new listeners at home, I'm about to read off 3 facts here, 2 of which are going to be true about Alan Tudyk. One of them is not going to be true about him, but is going to be true about one of the many illustrious cast members of the Fast and Furious franchise. Gentlemen here are going to have to guess which one that is. Fact number 1. Before becoming famous, he voiced characters in video games to pay his bills. The most notable at the time being the main character in Draken, Order of the Flame, in the late 1990s. Fact number 2. He had a brief experience as a stand-up comic before quitting after an angry audience member threatened to kill him. Fact number 3. He once had a severe allergic reaction, broke out in hives, and needed an adrenaline shot to be able to breathe during the filming of one of his roles.
I think I'm on to you on this one, James.
It's usually the case.
First one is clearly the lie, because the person that was voicing all those video games to pay bills was none other than Jason Statham in his sexy, raspy voice.
I can buy that.
I can't argue that because you nailed it on the money. No, I'm just messing with you. I would never give up my secrets that quickly.
I think number 3 is the lie, because Lucas Black was trying to do a voice acting different than his southern drawl, and it caused him all sorts of health problems. So I think number 3 has to be Lucas Black.
Lucas Black. Love that guy.
I always enjoy when Lucas Black comes up on this segment. It's a good pull.
Me too. I love Lucas Black. Unironically.
He was really good in The War with Kevin Costner, which I reviewed that one time, and he was like an 8-year-old boy.
How was his accent? Was it pretty southern?
It was exactly what he's sounded like his whole life.
I'm going to go number 2 in honor of King Kendrick. I'm going to go West Coast. Obviously, Tyrese.
Yeah, I also was going to pick Tyrese, but I thought it was that Tyrese was number 1 and was secretly voicing video game characters before he got famous.
God, I hope so.
What a shame those gorgeous looks would be doing voiceover work.
Okay, so we actually had a scatter shot here, which I'm intrigued by. So I will start with fact number 2. He had a brief experience as a stand-up comic before quitting after an angry audience member threatened to kill him. That's true. He'd done stand-up when he was in East Texas and had a very brief career, which he says was mostly exclusively performing at Holiday Inn bars.
Yeah.
He was doing a 30-minute set, which is a ton of time, and there's just no way you can have that much material if you're a new comic. Some drunk guy threatened to kill him, and he swears he didn't insult him that bad, but he was so genuinely scared and was in such an area where a lot of people are heavily armed that he said, he's like, you know what, I'm never going to do that again. And he just said, I'm focusing on acting, and I'll just be a funny actor from here on out. Fact number 3. Once had a severe allergic reaction that he broke out in hives and needed an adrenaline shot to breathe during filming. It was actually true, and it was in 1997 at the point where he was mostly starring in off-Broadway shows, specifically one where he played 27 roles called Bunny Bunny.
Damn.
He auditioned for a cameo in Patch Adams, and although he didn't land the role, the director cast him because of his stage versatility that he had heard about and was like, we'll figure something out for you. And the night before day 1 of filming with Robin Williams, one of his comedy icons and legends that he's looked up to, he's like, I had a scotch and chocolate covered pretzel and I didn't think anything of it. And the next morning on set, it's like, I was struggling to breathe. I had hives. I was rushed to the doctor. I got an adrenaline shot and immediately sent back to film his scene with Williams, in which he is sharing moments in an insane asylum in that movie. He had to improvise a lot of his lines, and he was struck by how understanding Williams was and like his warmth and generosity. He's like, and everyone always talks about how Williams is always on, and you know, even when the camera's off, he's just ripping jokes. But because of my allergic reaction, he just kept focusing on my health and like making sure I was okay. He's like, which I found really charming, but I also found incredibly embarrassing. That the first time meeting my idol, he's just like, are you okay, man? Like, let's just focus on you right now and make sure you're all right. And fact number 1. So obviously Tudyk is famous for a lot of his voice work, but he didn't get into that until he was later in his career. Given his range in animation and film, it's no surprise that he's been in a ton of video games at this point. But the main character of Draken, Order of the Flame, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, I don't know why you would be, is a female warrior who is on a quest to rescue her kidnapped brother, partnering with a dragon. Now, with that information, who would you guess that this is from the Fast and Furious franchise?
Michelle Rodriguez?
Nailed it, Kyle. Yep, that's exactly right.
Nice.
Yeah. Prior to this is the only money she was making in the industry was voicing this role before she got into Girl Fight, and then obviously famously portrays Letty Ortiz in the Fast and Furious franchise.
Those are awesome.
That's good, baby.
He talks about the Williams story as like, it's the most extraordinary day of my career, and it was like the first day of my career. He's like, I still think about it to this day.
If you like look away, you'll miss him in Patch Adams. He's in one scene and
Because he was dying. He would have been in more. As you're telling that story, James, I just keep imagining Robin Williams dialing it down, like coming in at 100 and then just slowly dialing it down, realizing this guy's having a allergic shock.
Like, hey, by the way, I think this guy's in trouble. I think we should do something about this.
All right, thanks, James. Case, what do we got for Snapshot and box office?
I have a disclaimer about Tudyk's Snapshot and box office history. Simple, he broke my spreadsheet. He found a way to cheat the system, and my hat's off to you, Mr. Tudyk. Tudyk's involvement and performances in animated films from a box office standpoint is ridiculous. He has been in a total of 7 projects which have world grossed over $1 billion. 25 projects he's been in have cashed in more than $100 million world gross. And those numbers are baffling. In those 25 $100 million plus movies that he's been in, he was not the leading man. In fact, most of the films that I even brought up with people, the only one most people recognized him from was Dodgeball, where he was Steve the Pirate.
I'll make a barter with you, true as a North Star.
Brilliant, right? There's a wonderful combination of obscurity and success that he gets to enjoy in his career. All that may be changing now because of his wonderful performance in Resident Alien that I'm sure we'll talk about later. And even if we don't, I will start talking about it. So it's going to get brought up later. That's what we call a teaser. That being said, let me throw some wild numbers by you guys. Average budgeted film, he's ranked 4th at $85.5 million. World gross, First by a mile, 16 billion. Star Meter, 25th at 494. And he's had a bump as of late, and I couldn't quite figure out what it was for. And we might be able to crack that code when Aubrey talks about upcoming projects. Critic rank, he's 10th at 66.3. Fan ranking, 6th at 69.8. 24th and 65th in box office metrics. All that being said, for an obscure actor that most people can't identify, he ranks 10th on our box office snapshot. My hat's off to you, Mr. Tudyk. You have done it.
I'm shocked by most of those numbers, to be quite honest.
I mean, the mouse makes you money, baby. That's what it's about.
That mouse money.
Disney loves him, and whether that's in Star Wars or kids' movies or whatever, it doesn't matter. So
I'm going to go on a limb here, Case, and say that his Munson Meter score is going to be lower than his box office metric, as opposed to the Jeff Bridges one, which was a lot higher.
I think you're right.
He's like your shitty high school friend who didn't do anything, but like got into a really like tech forward job early and is now rich.
Yeah.
That's him. Yes, Disney has made him a lot of money because he works with Disney all the time. He's like the pinnacle of voice acting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what it is. All of this stuff is just all voice acting. Not only is he beat the Munson meter, he beat life. Like, he won the game. Because this guy has just piles of money.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody probably knows, so he's safe.
He can go do whatever he wants.
Like, he won the game. I respect this guy.
That's like the ideal way to get a ton of money, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
They're breaking into Joe Burrow's home, not Alan Tudyk's home. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're good.
Yep.
That's a good lead-in case, because we got a lot of really interesting stuff to talk about with Alan Tudyk. By the way, if you go to his IMDb trivia, it's really funny. They say his name is pronounced Tudyk, and it's TOO-DICK. I feel like someone's just being an asshole.
As someone with a hard to pronounce last name, there comes a moment where you're just like, I'll just spell it like the way you need to pronounce it. And if your last name is pronounced Tudyk, like, let's get right to the point. This is how you say it.
I have immaturely giggled multiple times after saying his last name. Like, Alan Tudyk.
I imagine that con circuit, he's probably had that once or twice. Someone came up to, hey, Mr. Tudyk. Let's get into the early days of Alan Tudyk. His first major role is going to be right in smack dab in the middle of the Willenium case. So everything pre the Willenium to kind of get us started. So he's born in El Paso, raised in Plano. What is that, our second episode in a row with a Texas boy after the Jeff Bridges episode? So back to back. We know Plano.
Yeah, well, sure.
What, northwest of Dallas, right?
Northeast
of Dallas. I knew it was on the northern side of Dallas somewhere.
Yep.
Born in 1971, born in the southwest part of Texas, and moved up the Dallas-Fort Worth area. As James said, he had a brief stint in stand-up. There wasn't a ton of stuff online I could find about like his early life. Kind of jumped from like how he was raised to, high school days and going to college and things like that.
Well, I was going to say, now you understand how hard it is sometimes to find interesting facts when some people just are like consciously not online.
Private?
Yeah.
And inherently private, yeah.
Yeah.
Studied drama at Lon Morris College in Jacksonville, Texas. Case, are you aware of this university?
I think it closed.
Then he went to a little school by the name of the Juilliard School, which we've covered a few times. Known for some pretty rigorous acting training. Shocking. But my understanding is he didn't graduate from there. He attended and eventually left and went off and did other things. But he did attend Juilliard, which that's a pretty cool thing in the mid-90s.
So he got to Juilliard from a junior college in East Texas?
Skills, baby.
That is fascinating.
He won like all their awards in academic excellence for drama. And then he got like superlatives from the students where it's like most likely to succeed. And then he transferred.
So if he was on any other team in the movie Dodgeball, he would have been on the Skills That Kills case. And you're welcome for that. I don't know if he really would have fit in with Skills That Kills, but that's neither here nor there. His first role was in 1997's 35 Miles from Normal. I saw an interview where they had him guess what lines he had said over the years. And when this movie came up, he was like, yeah, let's not talk about that movie.
I saw that same interview.
he was like, yeah, you know who wrote that, right? The guy who had the scandal on One Tree Hill for assault.
Yeah.
And then, as James talked about, Patch Adams, he played Everton alongside Philip Seymour Hoffman. I forgot how like underwhelming that film is. The messaging is like literally all over the place with that film years later. Once Dissuade Yourself from the Robin Williams spell.
It's one of those films that I loved when I like saw it when it first came out and I was a kid.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I watched it again like later on and was like you said, it's all over the place.
Philip Seymour Hoffman's very good in his role, so I'll say that. But he plays an asshole. Stuck up, I'm here for school asshole. He made his Broadway debut in '99 in epic proportions. So, big theater guy. He's done 6 other Broadway productions over the years.
And you guys know me. I always give bonus points for people who do live theater because it is a whole different beat.
For sure.
Well, let's talk about his first major role, which is from the year 2000, where he plays a character named Gerhardt in 28 Days Later, a zombie film, and Case is going to talk about it.
Yeah, I wish. Well, that would have been awesome if it was the zombie film.
Oh, it's not the zombie film? Oh.
No. In this particular case, I was the zombie watching this movie because bored it would be an apt word to describe my state of mind as I was watching this. But for those not familiar with the other 28 Days movie, this particular 28 Days is a 2000 drama comedy, or as some people would describe it, a dramedy. I don't know if that's an official term, but I'll go with that. And I really enjoyed the cast of this. It stars Sandra Bullock as the main character, Steve Buscemi, Dominic West in an English accent film, which caught me off guard because most of the things I've seen him in, he does not have his accent. Fellow St. Lawrence University alum, Viggo Mortensen. So he and I have a lot in common. That's very exciting. An appearance by Munson's at the Movie legend, Margot Martindale. Very exciting. And, of course, the star of our show, Alan Tudyk. I always got to take the opportunity to recognize Margot Martindale, right?
Yes, and I'm looking at the stills. Guts legend Mike O'Malley. I didn't know he was in movies.
Gonna bring it back to Mo.
Thank you, James.
Okay. Do you have it?
All right, Sandra Bullock stars as Gwen Cummings, a successful New York colonist whose life revolves around partying. A disastrous drunken outburst at her sister's wedding lands her in rehab for 28 days. I wouldn't say it was the outburst at the wedding as much as it was driving the limousine through a house, which landed her in rehab. Like most addiction stories or movies, Gwen is initially resistant and is in denial about her problems, but she is forced to confront her substance abuse issues and underlying reasons behind her self-destructive behavior. The supporting cast in this movie shines, notably Alan Tudyk as Gerhardt, a fellow rehab patient with a childlike innocence and a deep love for Star Wars. Tudyk's performance relies on comedic timing and subtle, quirky responses. His struggles with addiction are played for laughs at times, but Tudyk presents his character with a genuine vulnerability, making him probably one of the more likable characters in the story. While 28 Days is primarily known for its comedic aspects, it does offer some insightful glimpses into the dynamics of rehab and the challenges of recovery. The film doesn't shy away from difficult conversations, relapses, and emotional roller coasters that comes with confronting addiction. 28 Days, however, is not without its flaws. The film relies heavily on stereotypes. I read several reviews about this movie that claimed that it was funny and thought-provoking, and it offered a good message of hope and resilience for those struggling with substance abuse. And I can just say that I do not agree with any of those reviews. I didn't find the movie particularly funny. I didn't find it particularly thought-provoking. While it's not a perfect film, 28 Days is not a bad watch, I will say that, especially for fans of Bullock, Buscemi, Mortensen, or Tudyk. And for anyone interested in a lighthearted but ultimately meaningful take on the challenges of recovery. My final take on the movie is that Steve Buscemi stole the show, period. That's it. If you're a fan of Buscemi, you'll like this movie. As for Tudyk, I wish I would have watched this movie first before I started watching more of his recent stuff. I thought his character was a little bit too over the top. However, I will say for him, getting the opportunity to work with some of the biggest names in Hollywood at the time, and apparently having a pretty loose leash and range of his character, I think it's a great starting point to his career.
My wife loves Sandra Bullock. No one's got a problem with Sandra Bullock. And like you said, the cast is actually phenomenal. I love Mike O'Malley. He's one of my guys that I'm just like, man, you're great.
Oh, is he the one that every other scene was making out with somebody in the elevator?
Yeah.
Hilarious. That dude's hilarious. Yeah.
So good. Well, and that was the thing is we kind of walked away from it going, oh yeah, Steve Buscemi is great in this.
Great.
And then it's like, and then Alan Tudyk is like the next best thing. And it's because like he is the the comedic relief in most of the situations where it's, oh yeah, let's have the German guy not understand what's going on. Play it off for laughs and then move on.
He'd be great in a zombie movie.
A year later, A Knight's Tale plays Watt, one of Heath Ledger's hype men on this journey of pretending to be royalty as he takes on the rest of the knights.
This was the movie that introduced me to Alan Tudyk. Because I mentioned my dad earlier, this was a favorite of ours. We would watch this just about any time we would catch it on. It's King Baratheon, Vision, the Joker, and then Heihei from Moana. Like that's the crew. You can't top that. But man, A Knight's Tale is just a fantastic film. He plays the comedic relief in a lot of the scenes, but being the dipstick friend amongst some much more, intellectual members of society, it suits him quite well.
He was actually given his role because he improvised in his audition, which I think a lot of directors frown upon, but it's a trend for him in which he's made director of the movie laugh during his improv. And with this one, he came up with the line, "Your entrails will become your X-trails." And the director's like, all right, well, that's funny. We'll figure out a way to work that in somehow.
He's wild in this. I like this movie a lot. Very much of its time, though. There's several elements of this movie watching it now where I was like, it doesn't really work as well as it did when I was 12. And at points, a very well done, emotionally hitting like blockbuster.
It does.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That scene when he reunites with his dad, it hits still.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm the opposite of you guys. I'd never seen this before. So this is my first time watch, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The critics are wrong. It's like in the 50s for ratings. It's bullshit. It's at least a 7. Get your lives together.
Wow, okay. I would not have guessed this was reviewed lowly.
I remember when it came out, and that was the thing. Is like my dad was like, "Oh yeah, it's medieval stuff, but they play a bunch of rock music. We'll go see this." And it's like, probably not great for like an 11 or a 12-year-old, but I was like right on the edge of where it's probably appropriate, so it was fine. And being someone who's Dutch, we still sing the Ulrich von Liechtenstein, from Gelderland song every now and then when we get drunk at family get-togethers.
What'll get a critic is a medieval movie that opens on a crowd of people, not just providing the drums to Queen's Will Rock You, but singing it. Because it's immediately you go, what? And I feel like that's what it is. You just can't get past that.
It's a fun one. And then his career changes in a grand scale when he joins the cast of Firefly in 2002. He says this role changed his life as Wash. But later was in the movie Serenity as well, but kind of introduced him to the Comic-Con circuit. The movie wrote and directed and starred in Con Man years later to talk about that con circuit, because it really wasn't a big thing there in the early 2000s, at least didn't have mainstream appeal. So this is a big moment for him in his career.
Firefly is one of those TV shows that comes and goes in terms of pop culture interest. You'll just hear people talking about it way more than they should, and then it just goes away. And then a couple years later, it comes back up. And I've read a lot of reviews of this show that his character was very well received. And I would imagine his popularity and him being involved in some projects, like people go, like we're doing, we go back and we watch that and get interested in it. And I think a lot of interest in this comes from his performance and people interested in him.
Streaming service, and you're like, oh, I want to watch the Serenity movie. If you try to do that, it's not going to take you to the 2005 Serenity movie. It's going to take you to the 2019 Serenity movie that is notoriously one of the worst movies of the past 6 years with Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway. It's an absolute batshit crazy experience. So just be mindful before you click on that button.
You should watch it, though.
Yeah, you should.
You should.
You should
just be mindful of what you're getting yourself into. Alan Tudyk's not showing up. Nathan Fillion's not showing up.
It's the type of bad that you have to experience.
Diamond's going to show up. Munson great, but none of the others.
You guys, we did that one episode where I watched 45 minutes of movie that was the wrong movie.
I did that with which actress, where I fell asleep and I woke up and it just auto played and I watched like another hour of the movie.
You're like, this makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
This kind of thing happens. It's to everyone. So don't feel bad if you watch the wrong Serenity.
Like, where did Zac Efron show up in this movie?
I give you credit for dodging that bullet with 28 days and 28 days later. I definitely was going to watch 28 days later. That's what I was going to watch.
That is definitely not the sequel to this movie.
It would have been so funny if you had gotten this review and you're like, I'm pretty sure Alan was one of the zombies, but I don't really know.
I'd never seen this before, and I'm a nerd, and I go to like C2E2 and stuff here in Chicago every year, and my wife was not super into it, but I was going to say it's really good, and I think for him, it really shows kind of more of that like depth and heart, and like kind of like Case said, that character's written really well, where again, he can be pretty humorous, but at the same time, he's got a lot of like that drama, kind of added into what he says and how he delivers things in it. I think it's where people started recognizing, oh, he can handle a lot more than just being a comedic relief.
Yep.
It was all that Juilliard influence.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good Alan Tudyk voice acting impression, too. That's good. That's nice.
I wish, man.
Speaking of voice acting, first big voice acting role early in his career on the film side. And again, 157 credits. We're not going to hit a lot of this stuff. We'll kind of hit some of the major shows at the end here, but from a film perspective, Ice Age. He's in multiple Ice Age films as multiple characters, but 2002, he played the saber-toothed tiger. Not quite in the Disney side yet, but Ice Age is a big deal.
Is this the movie where they handed him a bunch of pictures and they told him to give a voice to the pictures? And he's just flipping through this stack of like prehistoric animals, and he's like saying voices based on every character. And they're like, "Oh yeah, you play that one," and he ended up with like 7 characters in the movie.
That's awesome. If that is true, I wish I knew the answer to that.
I'm 90% sure it's Ice Age.
So did you guys know there's a guy on our team dressed like a pirate, and it was played by Alan Tudyk in Dodgeball? 2004, alongside Gary Cole and Jason Bateman and many other fun characters.
I can only imagine this movie does very well with this podcast.
Aubrey, do you think the Venn diagram of people who like this movie and hated Kendrick Lamar's halftime performance is just a circle?
Very close.
Oh, James, that is one of the funniest things ever said in this podcast.
I did like Dodgeball, but I also did like the performance. So, to prepare for his role in this, he joined like a pirate role playing group called the Rum Runners, and he spent a week at pirate camp.
Come on.
Isn't that hysterical?
Yep. Are you serious?
Yeah, it's a true story.
Yeah, I read that too, and I was like, wait, where's pirate camp and how do I get there?
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Sounds like a blast, to be honest.
I'm already blind in one eye. Like, let's go.
That was an excuse for him to do something he's been wanting to do for a while.
God, it was so much fun to watch him in that role.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does his little like grunts, yells like in between.
I don't want to bring the tone down here, but I love this movie.
Oh,
I've always loved this movie.
There it is.
oh, gosh. Heart palpitation. Can't do it. You can't do that to me.
But like, it's so stupid, but so like thought through.
Yes.
So it's not just randomly stupid. It felt like it was like purposely stupid. And then just some of the stuff that was funny. I'll never, ever, ever forget you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a ball.
Correct.
Just seeing dudes get hit dead square in the face with a wrench is hilarious to me.
He's great, though.
Oh, dude, I mean, I could quote Dodgeball forever. It is, but Aubrey's right. It's like, it's so stupid from the jump that like, you're immediately like, all right, these are the stakes. Cool. I'm in. Let's do stupid stuff. Like, they're about to be bought out, and it's just one of their coworkers is reading a magazine, and it's like, oh, the exact amount of money we need to not be bought out is the championship prize for a dodgeball tournament. And like, great, that's what we're doing. Like, all right.
We'll turn on the thong song and we'll tear this place apart.
Yeah.
It fucking kills me. It's so stupid. Because he plays a legitimate pirate, a guy who thinks he's a pirate going to a gym, the part that could go the most wrong in a film, and because of the way he plays it,
Yes.
you buy it. That like even guys who have mental health challenges who think they're pirates are showing up to Average Joe's gym because they feel accepted.
Fantastic.
They like give that time.
Mhm.
Like they give that moments in the movie where he gets to like wrestle with this idea.
Mhm.
And it's like, what are we doing? But all right, it works.
It's the literal last payoff. Even after Peter gets the girl, it's him showing up saying, I'm not really a pirate. And he says, but who am I going to share all this buried treasure with? That's how the movie ends. It's ridiculous. Gar, Steve.
Out to Dodgeball, the great unifier.
That's right. And we didn't even mention Gary Cole or Jason Bateman. We could go on forever with their quotes. So great movie. Go check it out, especially for Steve the Pirate. iRobot Sonny. He plays the robot alongside Will Smith in this. I totally didn't realize it was him playing that voice role. Had no clue.
My turn to tell the story of I watched this movie because I wanted to watch something where he played a real person. And I'm like, Sonny, that makes sense. All right. I don't remember him in this, but that makes sense. I wouldn't remember. About 30 minutes in, I'm like, he's a robot, isn't he?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
I knew a lot of his voice acting stuff, and this was one that when I saw it on his IMDb page, I went, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
Sure? And then we went back and watched it. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's him.
He's got skills. The skills that kills. I told you.
I have a dumb question. Was he playing a robot? Like he was suited up like a robot, or was he just the voice?
Both.
So it wasn't like CGI.
I think they do it in post. It's definitely CGI, for sure.
Okay.
It's not a stupid question.
I find this movie to be really interesting because this is that time period of movies, especially special effects heavy movies, where it can really go either way, but most of the time it goes left when you rewatch them.
Yeah.
I remember liking this movie as a young person. This is 2004. So, and then Will Smith is like, he's firing on all cylinders around this time. I'm all in. It doesn't really hold up for me.
Ooh.
A lot of it is really dumb.
Okay.
It falls into a trap that I think a lot of Will Smith movies fall into, where it's like, well, Will Smith will save it. Like he'll say some cool shit or he'll do some cool shit.
Yeah.
Or he'll just look really cool and nobody will care. And I think it's effective in this movie because I'd watch it 15, 20 more times because Will Smith is really cool in this movie. But anytime they're talking, I'm just like, I don't feel like any of this makes sense. For such a large portion of my life, iRobot was very good.
Yeah.
Well, one, to confirm, I think it was what Kyle said. He was motion captured. So he did the voice, but also the movement.
Okay.
To go off what Aubrey was saying, this movie's a lot of like fake deep scenes where like the idea of a deep conversation is there or deep thought on AI technology is there, but it's not like really fleshed out. I think he's talking to him like, oh, well, why do you do what you do? And he kind of like banters back with Will Smith, and Will Smith like realizes like, oh, the robot is giving a pre-programmed reason and I'm also giving the same reason, and the robot acknowledged that. Like, all right, there's an interesting something there to explore, and it's never really deeper than that. It's more focused on being like an action flick.
Another good example of that is his reason for not trusting robots. And it's a compelling idea just on paper. You can't trust robots because robots are always going to make like a mechanical choice. They're going to do things that are by like logical numbers and not by feel. But the example that he cites is an odd one to cite. It never really gets explored. Or why would he allow that to jeopardize everything he goes for because of that one situation?
We'll let the listeners kind of parse through that and figure out where it stands. James, you're our resident Arrested Development expert.
I love Arrested Development, but I'm unsure of any sort of Alan Tudyk involvement.
So you don't know him as Pastor Veal or Mr. Veal in 5 episodes between 2005 and 2019?
Unfortunately, not off the top of my head.
Well, he was in the show a bunch of times.
I just saw the still shot of him in a turtleneck, and I thought, what an interesting look.
It's like wearing a Brillo pad. But I know James remembers his character as the executive named Jack in Knocked Up, where he tells Kristen Wiig to tighten it up. Just, tighten up.
Dude, not only do I love that scene, but I found out in researching for this that he improvised that scene.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his audition, similar to A Knight's Tale. He improvised that, and they're like, yeah, that's hysterical. You got to do that in the movie. It's like, legally, we can't say that you have to be thinner, but, just tighter.
Go have that baby and then just squeeze it back in. Death at a Funeral. Played Simon 2007. So this is the original Death at a Funeral before they made the American version a couple years later. The fun parallel here is he played the same character that James Marsden played. Their characters inadvertently take Valium and are high out of their minds at this funeral.
I will say Tudyk's hilarious in this role. It is a bit that I think works with everyone who plays it, but he crushes it.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who's just absolutely high as balls during a funeral is always so funny.
My father-in-law, who is from England, specifically mentioned this film and was, you have to watch the British one. And I was like, well, I don't think he's in the American one. And he goes, well, good, because the British one is far superior. And now that I've actually seen it, I'm like, my father-in-law's got something here, because it's like, this is a good movie. He is hilarious. Like, he makes the movie, I think, because, as you said, a guy that is high on Valium, but it's actually LSD and is just tripping his brain off is hilarious. And he does such great like physical work to go along with it that you believe every single bit of it. And it's like, this is great.
My take after watching both of them is that their characters are the reason that both films are like enjoyable to watch. Like that character is so different than the rest of what's going on. So if you like the first one, you probably like the Marsden version, even if you don't like the Marsden film itself.
Yeah, as a Marsden hater mostly.
Not me.
I did like him in that role.
310 to Yuma played Doc Potter, 2007. I did not get around to this one.
You've seen it though, right?
No, I've never seen 310 to Yuma.
Love this movie.
Terrific movie.
Kyle, you're a fool. You have to watch this movie immediately.
Yeah, this movie's good.
Let me look at the cast. Let's see what my next opportunity would be. Give me a moment here.
This cast is fire too.
You got a classic Christian Bale. You got Ben Foster doing Ben Foster shit. Charismatic Russell Crowe. Such a good movie.
All right, what is Doc Potter? Explain to me.
He plays it straight. He's not comedic in any way, which there is like comedy in this movie. There's people like deliberately trying to be funny. He plays it straight. He's a doctor. And he goes with Christian Bale to help them transport Russell Crowe's character. And he plays it really well. I didn't remember him being in it just because of the nature of his character and it didn't strike me that way. But rewatching it, I was taken with his performance. I was impressed, especially knowing him as a voiceover person. He did a good job in this movie.
Yeah, knowing the rest of his career, this is like such an odd choice comparatively to the rest of his filmography.
Yeah.
It's super unique, it seems like.
He's in a lot of scenes, like in a good portion of like the middle of the movie. He's around.
Yeah.
He does a good job of balancing like filler with like a couple of like legit moments.
Yeah.
It's not the type of performance that you're going to walk away and be like, man, that Alan Tudyk, like if you had no idea. But if you watch him, if you're watching for him, it's a performance that is impressive because it just goes with expectations. I don't think you'd ever expect it from him.
I'll commit if we cover Lerman, Crow, Bale, Foster, whoever else, I'll watch this one for you guys.
There you go.
You might want to put this one on a list for like a rainy Sunday.
That's fair. I don't know if this is the best performance from him, but it's my favorite movie from Alan Tudyk, and that's Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I guess I haven't seen 310 to Yuma, so I can't really speak to that, but this is the first movie I think of when I think of Alan Tudyk.
Kyle, I thank you for introducing me to it because, like a lot of movies where I'm completely wrong on, I saw the preview for it and I was like, this movie looks stupid. And it wasn't until Kyle learned my love for Cabin in the Woods that he pushed me to watch this. And I watched it, and I am happy to admit that I was wrong. And it's very clever and well done. And it's one of my favorite genre bender comedy/horror movies to introduce people to.
Yeah, this is a movie that I've actually had on my list of movies I wanted to watch for a while and just haven't really gotten around to it.
Oh,
I watched it for this and was just like, okay, I know everyone talks about how this is one of the best Alan Tudyk, movies out there because, he really is one of the leading men. Oh gosh, I knew what I was getting into and I still just walked away from it going, wow, this was so good. It's fun, but like it really, like if you enjoy horror films, you will also enjoy this movie.
Yep. When they're trying to explain to the cops that all these kids are coming to kill themselves all over the property.
We've had a doozy of a day.
So you're telling me that he threw himself into the wood chipper? Yes.
The first time they like switch the perspective of them, they show you kind of what the bit is that is going to be throughout the entire movie. It is so like cleverly done. These two dudes that are like from the country who are just in absolute awe of how hot this one chick is. And they're like, oh my God, have you ever seen a girl that looks like that before? She's gorgeous. And then from her perspective, it's like the scariest fucking thing she's ever seen is those two guys. It's like, oh my God, they were looking at me. I think they want to kill me.
Those hillbillies are trying to kill us.
It's just two dudes being like, I've never seen a girl that beautiful in my entire life.
And poor Tucker, man, he takes the brunt of it. Gets his hand all chopped up. Dale walks away pretty unscathed from this puppy.
Yes.
I like how he hypes them up too throughout it, where it's like I can't talk to girls like that. It's like, of course you can. It just takes confidence, man. It's like, why don't you go over there and talk to her? And he goes over there, and it's like he's bringing like a weapon over, and she's like, oh my God, and she runs away.
I haven't seen it yet. It was on my list, but I couldn't make it happen. And I'm really disappointed by it because I think I'm really going to like it.
I'm in the same boat.
If you love Cabin in the Woods, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil is right up your alley.
Yep.
If you like meta commentary, that's funny. Perfect.
Does this carry any sort of an Evil Dead vibe?
Yeah, and not in the campiness like that,
Yeah.
but in the like cartoonish, like intentionally cartoonish gore. Like absolutely,
Okay.
like that happens. It's more of like what Kyle said, where it's a little bit more meta and understanding of like what it's trying to make the joke, but then you'll see like a kid throw himself into a wood chipper and like blood squirt everywhere. Instead of being horrified, you're like laughing while it happens.
Okay.
They're confused because they don't know why these kids are like so aggressive towards them, because they're just two guys that like bought a lake house and are going to renovate it.
Renovating their shitty lake house. Yeah.
They're fishing at night and homegirl like bumps her head and falls into the water, and then they try to save her, but then their friends think they're kidnapping her, and so it just all becomes it's all miscommunication is the entire concept of the movie. That'll be your rainy day movie, Aubrey.
I have a feeling I'm going to like this immensely.
Oh yeah. All right, let's see if we immensely like Alvin and Chipmunks Chipwrecked from 2011 alongside Christina Applegate. Lowest critic score, and Mike had the option to turn this one away, but he's like, give me the Chipmunks, man. I want it.
My wife even said, she's like, why do they always just give you the worst movies? And I was like, I don't know. I think I do it to myself.
You can tell your wife that we always ask that of ourselves as well. Now you are a member of the initiated here, because every time we get the lowest critic score, we're like, I'm pretty confident that you gave me the lowest critic score last week, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
Before I give my full review, I will say that it is better than I expect.
Oh.
So I'll give it that. But the entire story is based on an episode of the 80s Alvin and the Chipmunks TV show, where the gang, along with their female counterparts, who I didn't know existed, the Chipettes, they go on a big family vacation because apparently children with their love interests can just go on vacations together. During their usual hijinks on the cruise ship, they get swept off the ship and then get swept out to sea. And Dave tries to go after them and is intercepted by David Cross, who is, also somewhere along the Chipmunks' backstory. I'll be honest, I didn't watch the prequels to this. Didn't even watch the squeakles to this. Apparently at one point, they all just get swept onto an island. We'll just start there. They have to figure out how to survive. The monks, on rodents on a tropical island where they certainly would have been prey to numerous animals. And then, David Cross has to figure out how to survive on a tropical island in a giant chicken suit. While the Chipmunks are getting acclimated, they run into Jenny Slate, whose character name I honestly don't remember. But she's a UPS pilot who crash landed and talks to many sports balls, all a castaway. She takes them to her island home, and here, Simon, the nerdy chipmunk, is bit by a spider that supposedly causes personality change. He falls asleep and wakes up as Simone. And this is where we meet Alan Tudyk. So Simon is a French and swarthy and, sexy version of Simon. He actually makes him an engaging character. Even though the girl monks can see the riz that this boy is dripping, they don't understand exactly why he's become sexy overnight. I mean, it's a kid's movie. Once you get over the chipmunk voices, it is a batshit crazy story, but it's exactly what you expect. I will say I give Alan Tudyk credit because he takes Simon, who is usually the most boring of the chipmunks, and makes him like an actual engaging character. Having watched the film, I wouldn't have guessed that they changed voice actors between the two characters. It's heavily processed, so take that with a grain of salt, because you can make anybody sound like a chipmunk with enough sound engineering. The fact that they went from Matthew Gray Gubler from Criminal Minds to Alan Tudyk, and you can't really tell, is impressive, I think. I think the critics gave this a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes. Audiences actually had it at a 64%, so it had quite a large gap. And I would say I would give it audiences a little bit more of a credit on that one. I said a 55 was about right.
The prequels or squeakquels, as you called them, he didn't study those at Juilliard, is what you're saying.
I don't think that they were the high North American theater of which they would study.
He was too busy studying Lassie in case he had no time for Alvin and the Chipmunks.
I gotta ask a question. And I have to admit, when you said this, I kind of stopped listening because I've been confounded by this the entire time. You said he was bitten by a spider, that changes his personality.
Correct.
And then you said that he hit his head, and that's how he got back to normal.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
How does that happen? Like, did one person write the first part and he get fired and they just didn't reread it? And they were like, he hits his head. That makes sense.
It's science.
Maybe.
Or have the Spider-Man movies been lying to me for years? 'Cause he hits his head a lot.
The plot does not make sense because I kind of have the same thing where I'm like, I mean, he's been Simone for a while, so maybe it wore off, but they also talk about how, like, he got knocked out, he comes back, and he's Simon again. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I thought he was different because he got bit by a spider. Like, what?
Hilarious.
Tells you a little bit something about parenting, guys. You can just say whatever you want. They'll buy it.
Not in James' household.
Accurate.
No, you just can't spell it at James's household.
For sure can't do it here.
All I heard, Mike, is an indictment on the voice actor for Simon. If they brought in Alan Tudyk to do a voice that is not terribly different, that says something about they had to pay an extra salary for Simone.
It's lower, it's swarthier, but I'm like, at the same time, I'm also, if you would have told me that it was the same voice actor for both, I would have completely believed you.
All right, appreciate you, Mike. All right, going from the Alvin and the Chipmunks to Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. He played Stephen A. Douglas. Case is our resident Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter expert here, so I got to hear the take.
I think he's just a senator that is at one of the parties.
With Mackie, Anthony Mackie, another Mike Vandervoort crossover here.
This is classic cinema. I mean, the fact that this movie is not studied at film school tells you what's wrong with the education in the United States these days. Other countries study this movie in film school. I mean, come on. Wake up, America.
Yeah, Russia, North Korea, like all the good places study it.
They're all like, can you believe the United States presidents are vampire hunters? That's how screwed up America is.
I hope.
This movie's fantastic. Without irony, love this movie.
Worth some points on your Munson Meter. That's what I hear.
For sure.
Wreck-It Ralph, King Candy. Probably a terrible impression of King Candy, but he gets his start in the Disney side. I read that he didn't even agree to this originally. Is they accepted on his behalf, and wow, what a game changer to step in as King Candy. Do a lot of Disney projects after that.
Like his representatives accepted it for him?
Yeah, I didn't even ask him.
Wow.
I think his agent was like, "Yeah, he's going to do that." His agent was right.
All they had to hear was one thing. How big was the bag?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How many commas? Okay. Yeah, he got that.
Yeah, you're going to do it.
3%.
It's going to be great.
3%. Okay, yeah. We'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it.
King Candy is such a cool character, and the voice work is amazing. So, great choice by his agent.
Oh, yeah.
Cool character, great voice work, and a movie that I think is underrated because this is like top tier animated work, I think.
Agreed.
This is like one of the better animated movies I've seen in a long time.
I think it's such a cool concept. Like, take the guy who literally just never gets to be a hero and goes on his own hero's journey. I think is a really cool concept.
I'm absolutely with you, Aubrey, that it's one of those Disney movies that I don't think gets enough love. It's just so good.
Yeah. Dennis Haysbert's also in this, plays General Hologram. Another great voice actor.
I just appreciate when a movie is so in tune with its thematic elements that it can do stuff like that and brilliantly convey so much while still being really funny.
What is the premise of Wreck-It Ralph?
Ralph plays a character who destroys buildings in a video game, and his entire character is just destroying it, and then Fix-It Felix comes in and repairs it, and he's the hero to the townspeople if the person playing the game plays the game well. It basically takes him on this journey of being like, I never get to be the hero, and he gets to kind of explore and like leave his game, so he breaks the rules of like video games.
Okay.
And goes off and ends up being like the person who helps this young girl who's a glitch in a different game.
All right, interesting. That sounds interesting.
And the voice acting is phenomenal. I mean, it's Sarah Silverman and Jack McBrayer and obviously Alan Tudyk and my boy John C. Reilly. So
yeah, John C. Reilly's awesome. He plays Ralph.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, Aubrey. Speaking of Oscars, should he have won an Oscar for Ben Chapman in 42?
Come on.
In 2013?
All right, man, this is a controversial take. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. And this is how we're going to start this. it's important for everyone to hear this and know. I love Chadwick Boseman. This is my guy. Rest in power, King. I love everything that Chadwick Boseman does. I also have deep respect and admiration for him for how he went about his business. I don't think this movie is good. A large portion of why I don't think this movie is good is because I don't think he's very good in this movie.
He's not very athletic.
It suffers from a lot of the same biopic stuff that you would suffer from, and with a movie about something as important and interesting as Jackie Robinson and what he had going on. I know his character, Jackie Robinson, may not have been that charismatic of a guy, but I feel like we could have found some room for a little bit more of a charismatic presentation of this character, or at least something that was more unconventional. Because to have Chad play it so almost monotone speaks to a greater point of the man, but loses something from an entertainment standpoint that's needed. A more clever approach to how to bring this character to life is a better way to go about it. Alan Tudyk is fine. He plays a role that I feel like a lot of white guys got to make choices on when they get to Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hey, am I going to do it? You going to go there? His agent, they picked this one for him.
No.
He had to make a choice.
In 114 episodes, this is by far the most like aggressive racist role we've covered in 114 episodes. This is bad.
He gets after it.
Oh my God.
He gets after it.
Even more than our guy in Mississippi Burning.
Tobolowsky.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Tobolowsky. I don't know.
Tobolowsky is more about that action. Tudyk's about running his mouth.
That's a fact.
Okay.
That's a fact. I think Tudyk's character adds an energy to the film that I think it needs. That sounds wild out of context. I mean, an actual energy, not the way that we talk about it now. Like, I don't think we need that energy.
Yeah.
It kind of like injects something into the film that it needs. There's something there that kind of gets your blood going a little bit. I think he's good at it. It's another thing where it's like, that's not something I would expect.
No.
But from a guy who does so many different voices, I think what we have with Alan Tudyk is a very underutilized character actor. And you see it in some of these things and in this movie, which, like, I don't think this movie is terrible. I just don't think it fully works in the way you would want something like this story to work. But he gives a really interesting performance. Also, shout out to Kyle's guy and my guy, Lucas Black, holding it down.
Yeah, Lucas Black.
Lucas Black holding it down, I think, at second base, making it happen.
Shortstop.
Oh, shortstop. Nice to see him in this.
Yeah, glad to see he's working, you know?
I want everybody to see.
Well, one, I'll say Tudyk said this was like the hardest role he's ever had to prepare for and then actually execute, because he's not used to playing like a hateable piece of shit.
Yeah.
And like he's like, I found no joy in doing this. He's like, it was interesting for me to kind of stretch my acting range. He's like, but I don't think I would do that again, because you could tell by the other choices he's made, he clearly chooses things that he likes to do and things that he finds joy in, and this was not one of them.
To go from Wreck-It Ralph to Ben Chapman in 42 is just...
We're about to review a movie where he voices a rooster. Like, you know, it's like, he's not a guy who's fully in this era of, you know, biopics. Yeah.
It is memorable.
I will also say I love the trend of anytime a baseball movie is reviewed on this podcast, Kyle has to talk about the realism of the baseball, especially as it relates to Jackie Robinson and a Jackie Robinson movie, because the one part people don't often bring up in telling the Jackie Robinson story is how he was an absolute baller also. Like it's breaking the color barrier, but he's also in the Hall of Fame. Like he's an incredible baseball player. And Kyle immediately is like, well, he didn't look very athletic. I'll tell you that much.
He just looks so wonky when he runs, man.
That's an easy cast. Hey, let's get somebody that's as good at baseball as Jackie Robinson.
And Wesley.
It's the same as Kyle with Wesley Snipes and in Major League. Where
He was hit 291 by the end of the season. The man's a legend. God, have you seen him play basketball with Woody Harrelson? The guy's a baller, bro. Come on now. All right, well let's pivot to some animated projects. Frozen, he plays Duke of Wesselton. I want to say Kristen Bell. Another sequel there.
This was his first $1 billion movie. We got 6 more.
Most actors have $1 billion movie if they're lucky.
Yeah.
If they're not in a Marvel picture. Big Hero 6, he plays Alistair Cray. He's the red herring of the story alongside Maya Rudolph. Rewatch a good picture. Hadn't seen it since the first time I watched it.
That's another Disney movie that I think is underrated. It's really well done.
There's a lot of heart in that one. Alongside Kristen Wiig and Welcome to Me, 2014, played Ted. Trumbo, alongside Bryan Cranston, played Ian Hunter, 2015. Different
Yeah.
than everything else he's doing at that time.
This movie's good.
Another biopic.
As far as I can tell, this is his only real life character that he's portrayed. Well, no, I guess it'd be second because the guy in 42. Ian Hunter was the writer who was credited for the movie Trumbo made. Then when it was a big success, they later told everybody, like, oh, by the way, it wasn't me. It was this guy that y'all blacklisted. Pretty important role in the story of this movie.
This is a good movie, and I feel like it might be underseen. I remember that Oscars year, Bryan Cranston got nominated. And it's one that I think if you get a chance, is worth seeing. And is it corny to say, especially now?
Oh, if you're a fan of like Hollywood, this type of story, you will really enjoy. From what I remember, it tells a pretty honest rendition of this whole story and how it went down.
But Bryan Cranston's great. There's a lot of really good performances in this movie. It's really worth seeing.
Yeah.
Con Man. He wrote, directed, starred. I didn't realize, the episodes are 10 minutes long. Completely caught me off guard. I turned away and I was already in episode 3 and I was like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on here? But fictional story about a guy who was in sci-fi project and is known for that and still goes to the circuits, and it's all the hilarity involved in that. So it's pretty entertaining to watch.
I wonder how fictional this really was.
Not very. I'm inspired by true stories, I'm sure.
A lot of what I read about Alan Tudyk's career, this gets brought up as much as anything. And I think it's because he was everything, right? Writer, director, starred in it, produced it.
Mm-hmm.
And it more or less is connected to his experience with Firefly. Unfortunately, I didn't get to it. This is one of the other one that I really wanted to watch, but it seems like a fascinating project.
It's easy to digest, 10-minute episode, so it goes by really, really fast. But like every episode's about a different scenario that you run into, like him being on a plane and being recognized, but not recognized enough to like get a good seat. You know what I mean? And where he's like,
yeah,
this guy's not a sci-fi fan. It's like, sorry.
Is he playing it straight? Like, is he just a normal guy or is he kind of like play it up like he should be a star?
He's playing it pretty straight, but he just gets really frustrated because he has to continue to do these things and get in front of people for a character that he's not really a sci-fi fan. And all the fans are such huge fans of the world he was in.
Okay.
And so he has to pretend, but he hates having to pretend. And so he really struggles with it, like at a fundamental level.
I'm going to definitely go and watch this as soon as we're done recording.
You should. He got married in 2016 to Carissa Barton. He's been married since 2016. So good for him on the relationship front. And then last role before we get to highest critic score is his role as Duke Weaselton in Zootopia, a shady character who's involved in all the underground dealings with the Howlers. It's really a movie about racism.
It's such a good movie about racism.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember watching this movie in the theater. My wife and I went and just saw it randomly, or not randomly, we went and saw it because we wanted to watch it. And I remember we got 30% of the way into the movie, and I just said out loud, oh, that's what this is doing.
He's one of the few characters that doesn't really tie into the theme. It's very much a subplot. It's a comedic side character who just can't figure anything out, and it gets foiled at every turn.
I just love that the character's name is a play off of his character in Frozen. I also love that, he teams back up with his Chipwrecked co-star, Jenny Slate.
Chipmunks cinematic universe is starting to take off. I like this. I like this theme.
Is this technically a squeakquel then?
It could be.
I don't like where we've landed on this movie.
That seems disrespectful to Zootopia, so let's not entertain that. But let's do entertain highest critic score for Aubrey, which is Moana 2016, where he says a lot of words in this film, right, Aubrey?
My review is going to be a form of protest.
Oh, no.
This will be the quickest review that I give because I'm not going to review Moana, and this is no disrespect to Alan Tudyk.
True.
I'm not going to review Moana because this movie is great and deserves a full review and a great conversation about one of the great performances that are given in it, of which, again, respectfully, Alan Tudyk does not give because he doesn't say anything. He plays a comedic bird that makes noises.
All skills. Skills that kills.
Like, if you don't have children and somehow you've not seen Moana, you should watch Moana because it's great. But I will not review this movie. I am protesting Kyle and whatever shenanigans he's been operating on to make this happen. I hope that you guys will stand in solidarity in this protest because Moana deserves better than this.
Yes.
And that is it.
I'm appalled, Aubrey, that you finally have highest critic score, and this is what you get. And Kyle's over here laughing his balls off, like, oh, yo, guys, the wheel decides.
Yep.
If we go to his house, he's got a room with a full wall with pins in it where he's got ropes and colored lines, and it looks like something from A Beautiful Mind, and he's just screwing with all of us.
How to sabotage you guys.
Laughing for weeks about this.
Yes.
He's probably just at work. He was like, oh, Aubrey's got to review Moana. Ha, 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 ha. Alan Tudyk doesn't even talk. Ha, 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 ha.
It's indisputable, Kyle.
They almost cut that character out, I read, too. But then could you imagine Moana
Wonder why.
without the chicken, though? Could you imagine it? I don't know.
Is this your defense?
That's an awful defense.
There is another movie coming up that he doesn't say a single word in that's also phenomenal.
Well, Aubrey, I wanted to congratulate you on highest critic score. Now you got to wait about 10 episodes before you get highest critic score again.
Yeah, I know.
5 episodes. Largest critic gap. Largest audience gap.
He's some terrible actor.
Oh, wait. Lowest critic score. Critic gap, audience gap, first major role, and then you're back, baby. Highest critic. It's right there.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll be talking in that.
5 episodes is half a year from now.
It's literally like 4 months from now.
Hopefully they'll have a speaking part in that movie.
I will tell you this, Aubrey. Your reviews made me want to watch it.
Yeah.
So well done, man. That's a good review in my book.
Appreciate that.
Moana's great.
My review of Moana is it's incredible. It's a very good movie. But yeah, he's a rooster. He just pecocks the whole time.
It's subtle nuances in the peacocks that make the character what it is.
It's the rotation, man. I don't know what you want from me. Oh, man. It sounds like he's standing with the critics. So let's talk about Rogue One, Star Wars story, KS2SO 2016.
Would have happily done this one.
7 feet tall, on stilts.
He's so good in this.
Yeah, he's funny.
Oh, yeah. It's one of the best parts of the movie.
I think Rogue One is awesome. Controversial take. I think Rogue One might be the best Star Wars movie. I think all the elements of it are great in terms of prequels. I haven't seen too many better. I think what Alan Tudyk does with this character is interesting. It's a play on something we're familiar with in that universe, but done in a wholly unique and wholly different way. I mean, obviously it's not all credit to him, but it's a lot of credit to him because that role is amazing. And to borrow Kyle's thoughts from Moana, this movie wouldn't be the same if not for that character.
Okay.
I couldn't imagine it. But it's funny, it's insightful, it's purposeful, and it hits an emotional beat towards the end.
And we learned in 28 days he's a fan of Star Wars. So career's coming full circle.
Yes, we all did learn that because we all watched it.
That's right.
And if you want to make that mouse money, you got to diversify. Kids' movies, Star Wars, you got to do it.
Yep.
It paid off because he comes back in Andor.
Yeah. I mean, because people love him because he's a great character.
He was telling a funny story about filming it in which he's on stilts while he's, in costume, and his co-stars would always joke about how his balls were always in their face. He's like it's really uncomfortable acting next to you because I know that in this suit I'm essentially speaking right at your crotch level. He said he would, to make it funny, he would use the urinal while in the stilts. Use the bathroom on set while still wearing the stilts.
Deadpool 2, he played Luke the Redneck. I think just a small appearance in the film, kind of one off. He's sitting on a tailgate, right?
I think it's when Brolin comes into the timeline.
Maybe a little bit of a Tucker and Dale throwback. I don't know.
Yeah.
He was in the Aladdin remake. He played Iago, which was Gilbert Gottfried in the original Aladdin. So what a follow-up there, that iconic voice.
I will be the first one to say that I am not a fan of the whole Disney doing live-action remakes of their classic animated films. This one's not bad, but I will say it's not as good as the original. But when you're playing a talking parrot, he has lines, so it's clearly better than Moana on the Alan Tudyk bird scale.
I will save my thoughts on Disney remakes for the movie I am reviewing here shortly. But I will say that Gilbert Gottfried is one of those guys who I remember like actively hating his voice when I was younger. And then as I've gotten older, I've come to like truly love and appreciate his comedy. I think he is so funny. And I didn't really understand his kind of style when I was a little kid. I was just like, God, that voice is unbearable.
And he loved movies.
Oh, did you really? I didn't know that.
He had his own movie podcast. I think it was dedicated only to like classic movies. He was a huge fan of cinema.
All right, Raya and the Last Dragon. Awesome movie. To my point earlier, he didn't say a fucking word in this. He plays Tuk Tuk, and Tuk Tuk just goes the whole time. Endearing character in the same vein as the Moana one. But Raya and the Last Dragon, what a fucking movie.
Yeah, this movie was critically, audience, and box office highly acclaimed.
Mm-hmm.
This is interesting. I've always been so-so on this movie because I felt like it was very similar to Moana.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's similar.
I felt like it was basically the same movie, and then Alan Tudyk plays the same role in both movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised Kyle didn't have you do both of these tonight.
I know.
Combo deal. Package up.
Is it like one of those things on Twitter when they would show the animation of old school Disney animation when it was the same movements but different movies? Like, this is that, but Alan Tudyk.
I love the animation of this one, too. It's so clean. I can forgive some of the story elements because the animation I find to be really appealing.
I agree with that.
Yes, it's a very pretty movie.
It's a gorgeous film. Strange World. We've talked about it several times now with Dennis Quaid, Lucy Liu. He plays the narrator, radio host one, and Duffel. So variety of characters in that picture. Father-son story. Okay, so you got obsessed with Resident Alien as Harry Vanderspiegel.
I love this show. This is one of my favorite TV shows. Kyle's like, hey, I just checked out the first episode of Resident Alien. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll check it out. I was so bored with the Super Bowl that with 2 minutes left in the first half, I turned it off and I watched the final 4 episodes of season 2 of Resident Alien instead of watching the Super Bowl. And I could not have been happier with my decision. In terms of Alan Tudyk, this whole show revolves around him. It's the classic fish out of water. It's an alien that landed on Earth and can't escape. So he's a fish out of water. He doesn't know how to act. The subtle differences that this has that's new to this type of a story are so great in that, number one, he is not trying to be a good person. He hates humans. Him and this little kid have the best rivalry that I have seen since, what did you say, Kyle? Hangover.
Oh, yeah, since Zach Galifianakis and the kid who...
This role, he is perfect for it. It is perfect for him because he uses his voices. He goes in and out of having the right pacing and the wrong pacing, and he does it very, very skillfully. I think it's really a funny show, and it's entertaining. And if you haven't watched it, get after it. And season 3 is coming out on Netflix.
I don't just look like Case with the new haircut. I will completely echo everything he said. And I have an uncle, him and I never got along, and then when Netflix came around, it was all of a sudden like movies and television shows is how we bonded. And when we were seeing each other, I want to say it was last spring. Yeah, it was right around the time my dad got sick. He's telling me about, well, you need to watch this new show. It's this really good show. It's called Illegal Aliens, and there's this alien that comes, but like he plays everything so well, and like he blends in perfectly at times, and then other times where he's so clearly not a human, and you're just like, it's a great show, and I really think you like it. And I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? Eventually, we end up looking it up, and he goes, oh yeah, it's this one. I'm like, oh, Resident Alien, and he goes, yeah, that's the one. It was like Alan Tudyk. I'm like, okay, great. Like this has become kind of his latest breakout role that people are starting to, pay attention to him for.
Yeah. And
I was like, I gotta watch this. And I will be honest, I haven't finished the second season. We're right at the end of the first. We started watching it and 2-3 episodes in, and now my wife's like, let's just keep watching Resident Alien.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of you guys said earlier that he's an underrated character actor who does voices. Yeah, that's because what you're seeing in this show is how great of a character actor he is. He can kind of like turn it on and become like very compassionate human man, and it works. And then there are other times where he says stuff and you're like, the way he's phrasing that is just so unnatural. It hits perfectly. And you're like, wow, that is so incredible that he's able to do just those little pacing things and the little inflection things that go, yeah, that's not right. and it makes the whole show so good, and it's what makes the show what it is and pushes it from that level of, oh, this is good to this is a great show. We figured, oh yeah, we'll watch a little bit of this just so I can kind of get an idea. And I'm like, no, I'm going to keep watching this. This is fantastic.
His acting chops are on display in 3 different ways. The main one that we see the most is him acting like an alien and not being able to function properly, but also not trying to be a good human. And then he kills the character that he took over, which isn't a spoiler because it happens in the first 5 minutes of the first episode. So in flashbacks, we see what his character was like as a human. And so then we see him acting like a human. And then he provides the voiceover from his character's point of view as the alien, but he does it a lot clearer. You know, he's not having to act like a human when he's doing it. And so he's really good. There's a scene where he's in the middle of this therapy session with the mayor, and the mayor's saying all this stuff. He writes on his paper, he's like, this guy's crazy. And then the mayor goes, you haven't heard a word I said, have you? And he looks up, he goes, I've heard a lot of words. And then that's it. He's not even like trying to convince him, like, no, I was paying attention. He's like, oh no, you've said a lot of words and I've heard them.
Well, no, the people come in and he's like, excuse me, I am therapizing the mayor right now. Just like, what? Fantastic.
It's a terrific show. If you're listening to this and you haven't seen this show, watch a couple episodes and see if you like it or not. I think it's fantastic.
And then the last thing I'll mention before we get to Largest Critic Gap, he was in the movie Disenchanted with Maya Rudolph. James Marsden played a scroll. It bastardized the original version. That's my opinion. All right, James, Largest Critic Gap, Peter Pan and Wendy. Talking about the Pan universe, Mr. Darling, 2023.
Inspired by Disney's 1953 animated classic, which I'm sure you've heard of, Peter Pan and Wendy was released in 2023. It's got a critic score of 63% and an audience score of 11%, which is real bad. It follows the story that I'm sure you all know by heart at this point, so no reason to kind of go through the plot. This movie itself has previously been like review bombed online because of the current anti-DEI approach that a lot of online reviewers have towards movies, mostly because it generates clicks and views, not because they have any sort of original thoughts. So I went into this movie ready to like defend it blindly, but after viewing it, I now have to speak of it the same way I speak of Fight Club, where I acknowledge that I share opinions with some of the worst people alive, but I feel the need to explain why I shouldn't be associated with those losers. So this one has like an incredibly unexpected tone. What's weird about this movie isn't the choice to include diverse characters like a black Tinkerbell or female Lost Boys, but it's like how consistently hollow these characters are and how overall grim the story kind of feels. So while the outrage other people have, I don't agree with. Unfortunately, I do have to agree with them that the movie's just not good. While it attempts to recapture some of like the visual magic of the original story, many of the moments that are supposed to be playful are either just like watered down or removed entirely and replaced with like somber dialogue and bickering and expanded backstories that kind of drain the energy from it. I'll admit that some of the film's efforts to add depth to certain characters' backstories, like how Captain Hook became Captain Hook, or choosing to make the alligator involved like kind of scary, I thought it was pretty admirable and could have been interesting, but it ultimately fails to create like an enjoyable experience for either kids or adults. It's hard to tell who this version of the story is meant for. It's clearly aimed at kids, but it's like slow and it lacks charm and it's serious. And so it like struggles to capture the fun that makes the story so famous. Tudyk plays Mr. Darling, but he is not in the movie for a long time at all. While his screen time's limited, his performance is fine. I don't think any of the actors are contributing factors to why this movie just ultimately doesn't work. It truly feels like it was one of those movies that was written by a marketing team. And it's like, what can we do to squeeze every last cent out of this? It lacks magic, a sense of wonder. You go to Neverland, you don't feel that at all. If any of you had seen it, I know you agree with me. If you haven't, I would highly recommend you don't watch it.
Well, I was gonna watch it until you just said that, so that's off the table now. It's interesting because I like a lot of what David Lowery does as a director. I was looking through his filmography: Pete's Dragon, Ghost Story, Old Man the Gun, Green Knight from a few years ago. But everything you talked about and how the film is set up is explained once. If you've seen Green Knight and you've seen some of those, he's very methodical.
Yeah.
It's very slow. Those films are not fast paced, and A Ghost Story is ungodly slow and meditative.
I didn't realize I was the same
Guy. So like all of that makes sense. He's probably not the right director to do a Peter Pan and Wendy film, especially because there's been like two or three other Peter Pan adaptations since like 2021 that also were not well received. So probably not the right director for the project.
I'm so much more interested in this movie now than I ever have been. Not because I think I'll watch it and like it. I find the conversation around Disney to be interesting, particularly now, post Mufasa. I think that movie's excellent, and it gets lumped in with a lot of the same critiques with Disney. And it's made me wonder where I stand on these Disney critiques and where other people actually stand on them. I was very anti-Disney remake, but there are ones I like. And like mentioned earlier, he liked the Aladdin one. And I wonder if it's just a matter of like, do some of these work for people randomly? Because like I like the Cinderella one. I don't really like any of the other ones, but I like that one. And so like, would you be here for any version of a Peter Pan remake and not just this one? Or are you out on the idea in general?
I probably would be in for a version of it because there were some remakes that I did like. I was so ready to hate the Aladdin one, and I left being like, you know what? I can't really complain as much as I was ready to. I was ready to be like, man, Will Smith, he better not try to do a Robin Williams impression. And I was like, no, you know what? Will Smith kind of did Will Smith stuff, which I guess is what I would want him to do. I also like the Jungle Book one. I think I actually saw it with Kyle in theaters.
Yes, that one's good.
But with this one, it was just like, I was ready to defend it. But in my mind, Peter Pan is more like magical and fun with a little sadness in it, as opposed to like sad and there's magic.
I think that's well said.
Yeah, if you're wondering, the two films I referenced both came out in 2020. Both were at Sundance, which is wild. And that's Wendy and Come Away. But Case, there's another one called Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare coming out this year by the same guys who did Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Yeah, nice.
The rights must have went to the public domain on that one.
Yeah.
Public domain. Yep.
This movie not working makes sense to me because as soon as you say, oh yeah, David Lowery made this, I go, this is not a good usage of his time.
No. Well, Aubrey, if you love a good discussion on Disney, boy, do I have a treat for you, because our last review for Largest Audience Gap is the movie Wish from 2023, which is a celebratory 100 years of Disney project that they came out with. So synopsis, for those who haven't seen Wish: a young girl wishes on a star and gets a more direct answer than she bargained for when a troublemaking star comes down from the sky to join her. Big gap here, 4880. This is the lowest rated Disney film since Chicken Little in 2005. So it's a 20-year low in terms of popularity, which is really interesting. It is a hodgepodge of Disney callbacks, references, and Easter eggs to celebrate 100 years of Disney since he made his first short film in 1923. Even the animation style is like functionally a snapshot of 90s style within a 3D environment. Like you can see the Aladdins from the 90s buried into a 3D space, like modern. So from that perspective, it's really interesting. And apparently the crew watched all 61 films before they made this film to prep. That's where you get all the Easter eggs, like all these little references. So if you're a Disney nut and you love Disney, like you got to watch Wish and just spend the whole movie trying to find ghosts like you're watching Haunting of Hill House. Like enjoy yourself. You're going to have a great time. Tudyk plays a character named Valentino. He's a goat. I feel like I had the premier Alan Tudyk voice acting experience in this movie because for the first half of this movie, he's a goat who just blets, right?
All right.
There's just a lot of making noises. And I was like, oh man, after I'd already watched Raya and the Last Dragon, I knew Aubrey had covered Moana. And I was like, oh man, he's just a goat making goat noises, just riding that cash dollar. But wait, halfway through the movie, once the star does its magic, Valentino turns from just a regular goat into a goat with the deepest F. Murray Abraham king-like voice you've heard in your damn life that is so distinct from any other voice role I've seen him do up to this point, it was actually really cool to watch him do his thing after that as Valentino. Got really exciting.
It's awesome.
It just reminded me how like versatile he is as a voice actor. Not obsessed with Wish. I think they did the best they could to like create a compelling story, but it's really not about the story. It's about how do you weave in 100 years of Disney projects into telling a story. And so the story for me was like the side piece. That was the appetizer to the main menu. Was like, okay, let's find 500 Easter eggs from start to finish in this movie. Actually, the most interesting part was watching the end credits and seeing which movies they had licensing to be able to put the characters in the end credits, because not every Disney film is featured in like, because they would do little silhouettes in star format of all the different, as an ode to 100 years of Disney. And there are very clear omissions of films that they just have licensing to. Or, for example, Big Hero 6, you would think you would have, what's the big guy's name?
Baymax.
Yeah. They didn't have licensing for Baymax, so they did the bad guy from Big Hero 6, which I was like, that's weird, but hey, do your thing. So
it hits the theme of he's the best thing in the movie, because to your point, like, it's a very different voice role for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm someone who appreciates Disney and likes Disney, and it was not my thing. So
I have a feeling Aubrey really liked this movie.
I'm zigging when you guys are zagging. I love this movie.
I was about to say, I have a feeling he really liked it.
I love this movie. I think it is legitimately and full stop good, and I'm very interested into what happened in terms of critics turning on this movie in a way that they don't turn on animated movies at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Disney element of it where it is self-serving. I won't deny that. It's not something that I got caught up in. I'm not good at getting caught up in stuff like that. I'm not good at Easter eggs. I'm not good at looking for that stuff. So there's an element of that where it is self-serving. I will not begrudge anyone getting its licks in on that. Tudyk is great as a voice performance, as just providing comic relief in a different thing for us to laugh at and kids to enjoy. I really appreciated what he was doing. Everyone as a child enjoys about Disney is the empowerment to dream, right? So like, as a person, I spend a lot of time at Disney parks now, and I love what they do. I haven't always been a Disney parks guy, but I am. And I've spent a lot of time, one, watching these through the eyes of a child changes you, as it reminds you of what it was when you were there. But if you just reflect on the things that you loved about Disney when you loved Disney, to me, it's the empowerment to dream, to long for something that seems impossible. The longing for that thing and the desire for that thing and the pursuit of that thing is more valuable than actually getting that thing. And that blade cuts both ways, because it can turn you sour. I think this movie balances those things really well. I think the music is beautiful. I think the animation is outrageous. Blending traditional Disney Studio hand-drawn animation with computer generated animation is a wonderful marriage in a time where animation is in not a precarious spot, but hand-drawn animation is going away. So to salvage that in a movie that was this big with this much energy behind it is beautiful, and the product was beautiful. The result was beautiful. I think this movie is highly, highly underrated. And I personally believe a lot of the critic backlash is people just wanting to take shots at Disney, and critics took an opportunity to take a shot at this one, because I think this movie's great. It accomplishes all the things that a Disney movie wants to accomplish.
I feel you. It just did hit with me emotionally. It never got to that point as I watched it. I mean, I'm glad it happened for you, but I felt like it was a little lifeless from that standpoint as I was watching the story. And I truly tried to give it a full shake. This is the first time I read critic reviews of the film, so I was trying to go in with as much of an open mind as possible, but just never really came around to it, unfortunately. I did like that it was a true villain. They haven't done a true villain in forever. It's usually side villain, some side plot, but I like that. But hey, it's beautiful. Go watch Wish. Make your own determination based on your own experience as you watch it.
Yes, go watch it.
And it's Chris Pine as the baddie, so how can you be really that mad? Well, that's our last review. The last couple notes we made here for just in the past year. Creature Commandos, DC Universe. I think the first entry into James Gunn's DC Universe is Creature Commandos. He voiced a variety of characters in that animated show, 5 episodes of that. And then I think Case probably threw in Moana too. made the return, the chicken return.
Moana 2 is one of his $7 billion movies. And at this time of recording, it is still in the theaters. So it will continue to rise.
This feels like a betrayal case.
No, this is the movie you should have had to do.
It's not the highest critic score. What do you want?
That's true.
It's not good.
I mean, we could have spent a lot of time talking about all the TV stuff, but like, I'm just going to fire through some of these big TV shows that he's done work on over the years, right? And I'll stop at the end. You guys can pepper in any of these that stand out. Frasier, CSI, Halo 3, so done some video game stuff. Family Guy, Suburgatory. He did 47 episodes of that show. Phineas and Ferb, Call of Duty, Advanced Warfare, Newsreaders, 14 episodes of that. Trip Tank, 6 episodes of that. Adventure Time, 2 episodes. Powerless, Adventure of Puss in Boots, Young Justice, The Tick, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Doom Patrol, Curb Your Enthusiasm did an episode, Rick and Morty, 3 of that, Robot Chicken, Harley Quinn. He played the Joker in Harley Quinn, so that's obviously big footsteps to follow there. American Dad, and a lot more that's not even listed there.
Yeah, and Justified, I don't remember if it was multiple episodes or one episode, but he played a hitman. He barely talked, and he was like a very serious, don't mess with character in this show. It was pretty entertaining. In fact, I did not remember him, and then when I saw his scene, I immediately remembered him from this show. And this is another one of those shows that I just think is such a terrific TV series. Justified was a lot of fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a very strange and unique character for him to play based on his filmography.
And almost all of those were since 2011 as well. So my man has been doing a lot of work in the past 15 years.
Yeah.
Hasn't been around terribly long in the world of entertainment, but boy, has he packed in the credits. All right, Case, we heard you had a couple lists to pick from for best top performances. So what do you got for us?
Alan Tudyk's 10 best movies and TV shows, published by Sean Lilos on January 14th, 2025. So very recent. And it comes from ScreenRant.com.
Tucker and Dale.
Tucker and Dale is numero uno, number 1 on the list.
Oh, baby.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, Case, that's got to hurt that you didn't watch that.
No? Yeah, inspiration more than anything.
Moana.
Aubrey, you're not going to believe this. Moana is not on the list.
Oh, do you believe that? That's crazy.
I was trying to throw a curveball.
That feels disrespectful. Moana should be in the top 10. Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Rogue One, a Star Wars story, is number 4.
There you go.
Dodgeball.
Dodgeball is number 9.
Wow.
Resident Alien, give it to me.
Yeah, of course. It's number 6. Should have been
That's
number
right.
1, but it's number 6.
Knight's Tale.
Ooh, yeah.
A Knight's Tale is number 8.
Yes, baby. Firefly.
Firefly is number 3. Yeah, I knew we would do well in this one.
I'll do Death at a Funeral for my father-in-law.
Death at a Funeral is nowhere near being on this list.
Oh, wow. It was aggressive.
Your father-in-law. Just
Damn, Kate.
give me Wreck-It Ralph, Case.
Wreck-It Ralph is not on the list.
No.
Looks like we've got 1 movie and 3 TV shows remaining.
42.
42 is not on the list.
Trumbo.
Trumbo is not on the list.
Andor.
Andor is not on the list.
Is it an animated picture? The film?
It's an animated picture. We talked about it for a little bit.
Zootopia?
Zootopia is number 2.
Oh.
Ow.
The 3 remaining ones are TV shows, cartoons, and I think we only talked about one of them.
I have no idea.
Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn is number 10.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh. I was going to say, when you're playing the Joker, like that's
Yeah.
a big voice role to have, is to be the Joker.
From everything I read, he does really well at it too.
I can't believe I didn't realize that's him. I love that cartoon. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard it's good.
All right. Coming in at number 5, Creature Commandos. And coming in at number 7, Doom Patrol.
Oh, yep. Doom Patrol, is that DC?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it is.
I think he's a supervillain. When I'm reading this is a really good top 10 list. I'm not even thinking about the order. I'm just thinking about the projects in this top 10 are really cool. Except Resident Alien should have been number 1.
All right, let's get into Munson Meter. What we do, we rate every actor on a scale of 0 to 100. Could be based on a variety of factors, including longevity, project choice, pop culture impact, their acting range, awards footprint, their other talents, personal life, comedic chops, box office success, or anything else that matters to us as Munsons. And I get the luxury of going first, but I also think this is really hard to score someone like Alan Tudyk. He hasn't gotten the awards that would normally push someone up to the upper tier of getting Emmys, Golden Globes, Oscars, all those things that I value. But he does have the theater background. And he reminds me of why I love doing this podcast.
Yeah.
He's somebody that the general public would recognize by face and maybe by voice, but not by name. It's clear from studying his background and his filmography that he's impacted entertainment way more than the average actor we cover on this podcast, and way more than I probably even thought he did before we started this. And he's an incredible voice actor. I mean, we've covered some good ones. I mean, Keith David's the big one I think of that we've covered. Dennis Haysbert too, but Keith David's like the upper echelon of voice actors. And I think Alan Tudyk outranks him when you think of what he's done over the years. But Keith David also has a much more extensive career of doing dramas and action flicks and things like that, right? So like Tudyk's done some of that, but not a ton there, but has excelled when he's done those things. And even Kristen Schaal, give Kristen Schaal some love too.
Oh, yeah.
Because to Case's point, his Resident Alien was my last man on Earth. When we studied Kristen Schaal, I watched that entire show from start to finish. I got obsessed. Same kind of concept, right?
Yeah.
And when you think about his range, he's able to play the kind redneck in Tucker and Dale and the redneck in 42. So the dude's got range, right? He can cover the gamut in everything that he does and be incredibly memorable in both of those roles. So I don't know. I just love him. I love this conversation. It's really hard to score him, though. And he's packed a serious punch in his short career. I reserve the right to change the score after I hear you guys. So I'll go with a 73. I feel like a 73 is really good for Alan Tudyk.
That's shockingly higher than I thought you were going to go, Kyle.
Really? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'll toss it over to James.
I agree. Very hard to rate. I think he's incredibly underrated as an actor, and I think going through his filmography reaffirmed that belief. Obviously, he excels in voice work. I didn't realize how much he was featured in sci-fi cult favorites, but I did know that he was great in comedies. His strength lies in his exceptional voice acting, his comedic timing, but definitely in his ability to steal scenes with clearly lovable and eccentric characters that he's personally created that maybe didn't even exist in a movie, and he just kind of brought it with him as a improv character. However, he's pretty typecasted into quirky roles, and he isn't often the leading role in a film, which kind of limits his mainstream recognition. Despite this, his consistency and adaptability kind of keeps him relevant across film, TV, and gaming, oddly enough. I enjoy him in almost everything I see him in. I hope to see him in more dramatic roles in the future, but I can only give him 61.
Okay. Mike.
I think you guys kind of said a lot of good stuff. Is he a household name? No. Has he been around a long time? No. I mean, 25, 20, 30 years. He's still got a lot of career ahead of him. I wouldn't say it hurts him, but I mean, you know, when you're in the middle of your career and still kind of at your peak, in a sense, there's still a lot of opportunity to grow. That said, he's a bona fide Disney regular. He's got range. Like I said, he does kids movies for them. He does Star Wars. He's hit horror films. He's hit, you know, history pieces. He's hit comedies and dramedies and, you know, everything in between, which his range is just, to me, is impressive. And I think that he's one of those people, and I think I said this about Anthony Mackie too, where he's one of those people where I can see that if he gets the right role in the right movie, he could win an Oscar. And I think what we're seeing is Resident Alien is showing he has the capability of being a leading man, or at least carrying a project. I give him extra, you know, bonus points for. The other thing too is, you know, I'm a voiceover guy. I'm a voice person. And he is, as Kyle said, he's kind of the pinnacle modern voice actors. I was trying to describe who he reminds me of, and he's almost like a Hank Azaria.
Oh, yeah.
He's so good, and he's in so many things, and he's just a part of every piece of pop culture for a time frame. But it's not just because he's a good voice actor, he's a good character actor. And so he gets opportunities to be on screen and to do these characters and do those kinds of things that not a lot of other actors I think really can do, and it's a real testament, I think, to his skill and his talent. That said, I'm a huge fan of his, and I think I even said it the last time I was here with Emery Abraham, because I think it was one of the choices on the wheel for the next episode. I was like begging to not have him get picked so that I could end up doing this episode, and I am so happy that the wheel was nice to me and not to Aubrey. But that all said, I'm definitely going to go high, and because I'm a bit of a fanboy, and so I'm going to give him a 79.
All right, Aubrey.
This is really tough for me. It's really tough. He is a voice actor and a great voice actor. I think he's a good actor. I haven't seen Resident Alien. I haven't seen some of the stuff that would maybe sway me on how good of an actor he actually is. But he's a great voice actor. And I think that's something that should be set aside and given credit to. It's an underrated skill. It's a very tough thing to be great at that, especially the way he goes about doing it. It's one thing to just show up and be able to do one voice. He's able to do many different tones, many different styles, and elicit a lot of different things out of a lot of different characters using just his voice. That's an incredible skill. I see stuff that really intrigues me when I see him on screen, but it hasn't all come together for me. So it's a tough thing to look at. And so when it's tough and you have a hard time kind of quantifying it, what do? We all draw comparisons. And I try not to do that a ton, but the person I think about that we've covered has not been mentioned because I think of Doug Jones because he has a really tangible skill.
Interesting.
That he's known for. That's something that's underrated, kind of gets looked over, but he's great at and has kind of, I don't want to say redefined in the case of Alan Tudyk, but made his own and excelled in that in a way he can become synonymous with that, or at least he is for people who know. But similar to Doug Jones, the other stuff is the stuff I want to see, and I haven't been able to see that. So I'm in a similar range, and with much respect, I give Alan Tudyk a 64.
All right, Case, finish this out.
Kyle, you said something that made me, I'm going to hold it against Alan Tudyk, and you were talking about Keith David and that comparison. The one thing Keith David has done that Alan Tudyk hasn't is he was in a Steven Seagal movie, and Alan Tudyk has not had any Steven Seagal movies. I don't know if that's going to hurt him in my scoring or not, but it certainly hurts me to say that and come to that realization.
Well, isn't that balanced out by Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, though? So it's all fair.
Come on now. Yeah, for sure. Well, and to that point, even, Kyle, that's where I want to go next. From a pop culture standpoint, it's very high with him with his movies and his roles. No one really knows who he is in terms of they can place him in it. No one's going to the movie theater to watch an Alan Tudyk movie. That's tough to look at his resume and go, well, he's not a lead in any of this that everybody knows. That being said, I watched a couple of interviews with him where he was doing different, transitioning between different Disney characters. And it is staggering watching this man go from character to character in front of you. It just feels like a completely different person. It's so cool to see. He is so talented. Now, admittedly, I suffer highly from recency bias in that I spent the last half of my Super Bowl Sunday watching Alan Tudyk's probably premiere role. Right now, Resident Alien, in my opinion, is his premiere role, his premiere project. That role showed me he's got range. It showed me he's got comedic timing. It showed me that he can carry a project and be the leading man. And because of that, I'm going to match our guest tonight, and I'm going to go with 79.
With that gives Alan Tudyk a 71.2, which puts him in 64th place, tied with Chaz Palminteri, right behind Chris Pratt and right ahead of William Hurt.
Way lower than his 10 on the box office spreadsheet.
What a prediction.
Yeah.
Really went on a limb on that one. All right, Aubrey, what's he got coming?
I know it was mentioned before. I only found 4 things in his IMDb. I think I found out why he has taken a bit of a bump in terms of what people are looking into him for. So he does a voice in The Electric State, which is a movie that comes out in March. Anthony and Joe Russo, Chris Pratt, Woody Harrelson, Ke Kwan, Millie Bobby Brown, and then a bunch of random people the further you scroll down in this. Stanley Tucci's in this. Giancarlo Esposito, Jason Alexander, Holman Domingo, Anthony Mackie, Hank Azaria, Jenny Slate, Ryan Cox. I have no idea what to think about this movie. I've seen the trailer. I'm intrigued. But I think another voice work, and I think it's something that's completely different than a lot of the voice work we know him for. So could be interesting. The thing that's probably really got him buzzing, though, he's listed in the Superman movie, but not listed as a character on IMDb.
He's the only one that doesn't have a character tied to now.
Uh-huh.
That is interesting.
Wow. Okay.
Which is wild. I think in terms of like people searching up and like looking into him, I feel like that might be why.
Mm-hmm.
Because this movie's got a decent amount of buzz around it. It's a James Gunn movie. The trailer did well. So I think that probably has a large part of why people are looking into him. Then he's got two other things. Castaway Sorta, which is a short in which he plays himself. It also has Mae Whitman. I like Mae Whitman, so I'm interested in that. And then Playdate, I'm not interested in. Isla Fisher, not off to a great start. Kevin James, Stephen Root. Luke Greenfield is directing it. Luke Greenfield's IMDb. That man does not make good movies. So I'm interested in it because it seems like he's actually playing a person, but I'm not interested in it from a movie-going standpoint. As I would expect, or as anyone would expect, an eclectic little run of movies he's got coming up.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Aubrey.
Aubrey, did you see Electric State had a $300 million budget?
Yeah, it makes sense.
That would be fourth highest budget on our entire list. That's a massive budget.
See that cast?
Wow.
It's expensive.
It's that cast. It's the Russos probably got a little bit of leeway because they've made a lot of money, even though they made a lot of money attached to Marvel characters.
Yeah. It'll
Get panned early. It won't make a lot of money. People will talk about it all year. It'll probably be better than people said it was initially.
Next podcast's going to hit 13th. We got Mike Rodmaker coming back. He was with us for Mahershala Ali, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Jim Carrey, Tony Collette, and Seymour Cassell. One of those is not like the others. The Seymour Cassell episode is a lot of fun. Go listen to it. But he's definitely different. He took a different approach on that one, Mike. 5 actors on the wheel. We got Terry Crews, Rose Byrne, Tom Hardy, Julianne Moore, Brooke Shields. Quickly, what do we like? What do we dislike? And what do we think Mike would want to come join for?
If he follows the Seymour Cassell route, he'll go Terry Crews.
Yes.
That'd be fun.
You can go White Chicks and Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I can't wait to hear you guys talk about the masterpiece that is Blended.
It's a good list. It's a good list.
You're acting like a real McAsshole. That's what I think.
I mean, Tom Hardy jumps out to me. Tom Hardy is that guy. So that's the one that jumps out to me.
Bane. Yeah. Bronson. Bane. Warrior. Warrior's fucking incredible.
Warrior is incredible.
What's that movie he plays where he's the twins? The British like gangster twins. That's a
Oh yeah,
Legend.
Legend.
I was thinking Lawless. That's a different one.
Oh, Lawless is good.
He's really good in Lawless.
With Chastain.
Lawless is good.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Julianne Moore would be my choice of this because I think she's an absolutely phenomenal actress. But
Oh, for sure.
I'm talking about Big Lebowski again, right?
that's right. That's the one where she plays the clown. Bloopy wants. What is that? What is that movie? What am I thinking of?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
She's trying to have sex in the clown suit. That's Bloopy. Oh my god, I can't remember what it is. I'll think of it later.
From a career perspective, Brooke Shields would be really interesting.
I agree. I don't know a ton about her, but I know she was huge. When she was
Huge.
around, she was huge. Rose Byrne be funny, too.
Brooke Shields, we would have to uncomfortably talk about Blue Lagoon.
Oh.
yes, you would.
Yes.
Nah, I'll sit down.
Oh right, she was the one who was like, she's like the shining example of a horrific stage mom, right?
I don't know that.
I'm pretty sure she was forced into like show business at like the age of 10, right? Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So who do we think Mike picked? Rodmaker, not Van Voort.
I'm saying he's going to go Tom Hardy. He's going to revert to his original choices.
He's going back.
And he's going to go Tom Hardy.
That's my guess, too.
I think Julianne Moore.
Okay. Mike Vandervoort, if you had to pick, it sounds like you'd be coming. What do you come back for, Terry Crews?
Oh yeah, Terry Crews, top of the list. Tom Hardy probably be my close second though. He is phenomenal.
Contrary to popular belief, you don't decide. Mike Rodmaker doesn't decide. Aubrey definitely doesn't decide. The wheel decides, and we'll see what happens.
Well, the controversy isn't who decides the characters. It's you deciding who's covering what movies is really the controversy right now.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, why am I getting shot at?
You got to change it up.
The wheel ain't got shit to say about largest critic gap.
Pull the pin. You ain't saying shit now. Mike, love having you back, man. Appreciate you. You know how we do this little red carpet moment. Get a chance to tell the world what you're working on or give a little plug, wise words. The floor is yours, my friend.
Things are going great, and I actually don't have a whole lot of acting work going on right now, which is kind of different, but it's nice. Like I said, helping out a little bit more with the next generation of performers. So a big thing is to support live theater, support live performances, and see people in your community, because I think Alan Tudyk would be a great reminder that even if you're in Bufu nowhere, Texas, you might have somebody who is phenomenally talented in your community doing performances that be seen. So,
Oh yeah,
Good shout out.
Always love having you, Mike.
for real.
I love coming back. It's always fun with you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
As always, you can find us on Instagram, Munsons at Movies. You can email us, munsonsatthemovies@gmail.com. Any final thoughts from Alan Tudyk?
Thank you. I'm gonna whoop your ass, bitch. I'm gonna take my fist and stick it up your dick. I'm gonna punch you in the teeth, you gonna swallow them and they come out in your poop. You slimy, stumpy, shitty pool, bitch.
Munsons Out.
All right, let's go. Thank you for the education, gentlemen. We've just received a PhD in stupidity. Doctor, shall we?
Alan, we got 30 seconds on the clock. We're going to see how many of your iconic characters you can do. You ready? King Candy, Wreck-It Ralph. Duke of Wesselton, Frozen.
I'm danced like a chicken with the face of a monkey, Firefly.
K2SO, Rogue One.
Congratulations, you are being rescued.
Alistair Cray, Big Hero 6.
Robots or something.
Heihei, Moana. Joker, Harley Quinn.
Where's my goddamn electric car, Bruce?
Duke Weaselton, Zootopia.
Weaselton? Weaselton. Hi, Weaselton. Yeah. Have a donut, copper.
Tuk Tuk Ryan, The Last Dragon.
No.
That's a perfect.